The man of the mountain, forgotten by time. An Appalachian who remained unseen for decades, surviving in the shadows. Tucked away in the isolated hollows of West Virginia, where ancient trees are draped in fog and the idea of civilization feels like a distant echo, there once lived a family the world had simply left behind. This is the story of the Whitakers of Odd, a bloodline so entangled by generations of intermarriage that their very existence challenged everything we thought we knew about human survival. It was 1978 when social worker Barbara Chandler first heard reports about a family living in complete seclusion, deep within the remote Appalachian Mountains. The stories were vague, almost mythical in nature. Locals spoke in hushed tones about people who rarely stepped off their property, who communicated through sounds rather than structured language, and whose physical appearance hinted that something had gone profoundly wrong over many generations. For 15 years, Barbara had worked throughout rural West Virginia, yet nothing could have braced her for what she was about to uncover. The journey to Odd took 3 hours from Charleston, winding along narrow mountain roads where road signs grew scarce and cell phone signals faded into nothing. The community itself was scattered, homes hidden among thick forests, connected only by dirt paths that turned to deep mud whenever it rained. Barbara's car strained up the final hill, its wheels spinning against loose gravel, until she reached a clearing where a weather-beaten house stood like a silent sentinel beneath the grey November sky. The Whitaker home was a patchwork of wooden boards and corrugated metal rooms and additions built over the decades with no visible plan or structure. Smoke curled from a crooked chimney, and a chorus of dogs barked frantically as Barbara approached. The air carried the scent of wood smoke and decay, a mixture that would remain etched in her memory forever. On the sagging porch stood a woman in her 60s, her face deeply lined, watching Barbara with suspicious eyes that had seen too many outsiders asking too many questions. "Mrs. Whitaker," Barbara called out gently, maintaining a respectful distance. "My name is Barbara Chandler. I'm with the County Social Services. We received some concerns about your family, and I wanted to check if you needed any help." The woman said nothing, only stared. Then, behind her, movement caught Barbara's eye. A man emerged from the darkness of the doorway, and his appearance was immediately striking. His head was misshapen, larger on one side than the other, and his eyes didn't focus together. He made sounds that resembled speech, but formed no recognizable words. This was Ray Whitaker, 53 years old, the result of at least 4 generations of uncle-niece and first-cousin unions. Barbara's professional training took over, pushing down her initial shock. She had read about the effects of close-kin breeding in textbooks and seen photographs in medical journals, but facing it in person was something else entirely. The genetic consequences were written across Ray's face and body, telling a story of profound biological harm. His movements lacked coordination. His attempts to communicate were confused and frustrating. Yet in his eyes, Barbara saw something that would haunt her for years: awareness. He knew he was different. He understood that something fundamental was wrong. "He don't talk right," the older woman finally said, her voice roughened by years of tobacco and mountain living. "None of them do. Been that way long as I remember. You going to take them away?" There was defiance in her question, but something else too: resignation, perhaps, or the exhausted acceptance of a fate she had long stopped fighting. Barbara slowly shook her head. "I'm here to help, not to take anyone away. Can we talk? I'd like to understand your situation better." What unfolded over the next several hours would reveal one of the most extreme cases of familial inbreeding documented in modern American history. The Whitaker family tree wasn't a tree at all, it was a tightly wound circle, looping back on itself generation after generation. Brothers had children with sisters, uncles with nieces, first cousins with first cousins. It had started innocently enough in the early 1800s, when the first Whitakers settled in these remote mountains, isolated by geography and circumstance. The Whitaker genealogy was a nightmare of repeating names and impossible connections. Barbara spent weeks at the county records office, piecing together birth certificates, marriage licenses, and census data that painted a picture of systematic genetic catastrophe. The pattern began with Elijah Whitaker, who arrived in what would become Odd, West Virginia, in 18